Right, let's start that one again. Thank you very much for letting me know that we had problems with the sound. I'm George Constantinidis. I am the Managing Director of MVO Enterprises Limited, also trading as MVO Engineering in the UK. And we are the distributor and sales partner for SYIL CNC machine tools. As such, I do get a lot of questions on SYIL machines, especially for those that have been waiting to buy a SYIL machine for years, or they've just have come across the SYIL machine. And as those that have asked for a quotation know, SYIL offers quite a lot. So it's not always easy to make a judgment or specify a machine that will actually work or will suit your needs. So it's my job to make that decision much easier for you. So I also collected most of the questions that I get from yourselves and all the other customers, whether it's hobby or business, and I'd like to put them forward and put them together for you so that you can also refer to this presentation in weeks and months to come. Without further ado, let me go back into the presentation now that you were seeing. MVO started in 2014 by myself and my brother, Nick, and we are the distributors for SYIL in the UK, amongst other things. The reason I started working with SYIL, was actually out of introduction from our friend Aaron Powter in Australia, who's got a YouTube channel that you might know, and that's DCT Teacher. He had just received his SYIL machine and he'd been asked who does he recommend for the UK, and my name popped up. Since then we've been working very closely with SYIL because we also have the very common goals. So we're very interested in the technology of machine tools, giving value to the customers and ultimately ensuring that the customer is satisfied. And since then MVO has also been introducing new stuff or improving the quality of SYIL, giving feedback, and also ensuring that customers worldwide are happy. Now, who is SYIL now, you might ask? Well, they are a CNC machine tool manufacturer based out of Ningbo in China. And from what I understand, they started their journey in CNC from the need to actually produce some parts in-house, and then they found that they could potentially make a CNC machine of their own, and so on, and it grew to what we know now. They're currently an ISO 9001 certified organization, but very important, and this is the big change that is happening in the machine tool world, is they've moved away from the traditional cast iron manufacturing as of 2020, and they've gone into the epoxy granite build for their castings, and that's what's going to be carried forward and what really sets this machine tool company apart. The customers that we get are from a variety of fields. For example, we've got Ocado in the UK. Most people will know if they've heard about them. They're effectively a grocery distribution company, but they do in-house prototyping. We've got other garage industry or cottage industry companies, for example, D-War Design, who manufactures bespoke or very niche and very pretty, should I say, mountain biking components. Do look him up on the Instagram. He's just bought his second SYIL, and he's growing. We also very proudly support E3D, a 3D printer manufacturer or a 3D printer accessory manufacturer. And from what I understand, we also have machines in SpaceX in the Swatch Group, and Nidec. Now, Zendome is a company that produces geodesic domes, and they're based out of Berlin, and we personally helped them with that. And finally, Hilger Crystals, another one of my customers. They actually produce crystals for X-ray machines in things like airports where you put your luggage and so on. So we've got a very nice wide breadth of companies that work with us and have benefited, let's say, from our machines and also our support. Where we're going to start seeing a shift is that because the Smaller machines offered by SYIL are no longer available. For example, if you've ever come across the X5, which is a small benchtop cast iron machine that had been either put inside a fabricated base or a cast iron base with sheet metal surroundings and automatic tool changers, there you will see that because that's missing, we're moving more to the very premium hobby machines into business, and thus the prices and the offerings and the precisions and the expectations are also going to improve or increase. Well, the prices are not necessarily improving if you're wanting a cheap machine, but they will be increasing. And the question let's start with is, which machine should I get? My accountant will always come back with this one, and he says, as most things in life, the answer does depend on what you need. You should have a few things that you need to consider, and that is, first of all, what do you want the machine to do? There's no reason to go and buy a very large machine if all you're going to be doing is watch components. What is your budget? For example, do you have a budget for an X11, or do you need to limit yourself to the X5? Do you have the space? And space is something that really governs what you buy. For example, we have established companies that don't have the space to buy an X7, and they will have to make do with an X5 because we need to pass it through, I don't know, small doors, for example, or the actual footprint is too big. Do you have the power? Do you have three-phase? Are you stuck with single-phase? What do we need to plan in advance? Do you need to bring a new 32 amp line to your garage? And finally, what is your plans for the future? How long do you expect to keep this machine? Are you looking to grow your business into something that's more manufacturing, something that's much bigger? A note on that one while I'm on it, the machines will last a very long time if they're taken care of. Typically, you would look at amortizing them over the 4 years, but they will survive and produce parts way past those 4 years. We also have customers with old X4s that are no longer available, showing up on the Facebook group with machines that are 12, 13, 14 years old, and they're still producing parts very nicely. The current range of machines, and this is something that will confuse some people that have been following SYIL for a while, is significantly smaller. Previously, we had the V series, we had the T series, we had the X series, the X5, the X7, and then a whole host of V machines, which are 850 millimeter X travels all the way up to 1700 millimeters X travel. But SYIL have consolidated, and they're focusing on quality and focusing on this particular range. So we're starting off from left to right with the X5, which is a very compact machine, and it is not a replacement for the old X5. It's significantly more industrial. Then we're going into the X7, which has been around since 2020, and it is a very popular machine. It offers the best value for money and sits squarely against what other people would call a mini mill, or a super mini mill if you're of that persuasion. The X9, we haven't seen much about that one yet because they're pushing the X5 and the X7. So later in the year, maybe summer, autumn time, we'll see that coming through. But finally, we've got the X11, and the X11 is a serious machine with quite a lot of travel, but very, very compact as well. Fully epoxy granite, all 4 of these machines, which means that you do not have the issues of cast iron. You get that vibration damping that you wanted out of it, and even though they are very small machines, they're also significantly weightier than you would expect. For example, the X5 weighs almost as much as the X7. Footprints. This is a slide that I wanted to give you a sort of visual footprint for each one of these. The X7, 1.5 meters by 1.8. So if you can imagine, you are on the on the bottom of the slide looking up, and that's where you will find your machines. You can see the X11 is 3 meters wide, so yes, it does take up a lot more space and also in depth, but the X5 has a different form factor. It is deeper rather than long. So from left to right, you will see it's 1 meter long, 1 meter, and from front to back, it's 1.2 meters. Sorry, 2.1 meters. The depth of the actual machine is much smaller, but we do have the case of having the coolant trays and the chip trays at the back of the machine, and that does affect the overall length. So the footprint is just a footprint. What we also need to think about is how do we place this inside our factory. For example, you need to have at least 600 millimeters of space around the machine. So on the front, you need as much as you can. You need access to your controllers, you need to be able to move about. Most of the machines you can put up against the right-hand side, put them up against the wall, just give a little bit of space. There's not much that needs to be done on the right-hand side, but do leave as much space on the rear to open up any electrical cabinets, and on the left-hand side as well to be able to remove chip trays and also to top up oils and all the other services that you need to put. Okay, so let's think about now, you've made your decision. How do we spec this machine? Start with power. Do you need a single phase machine? If yes, then we need to limit ourselves to the LNC controllers. LNC controllers is one of the controller suites that is offered by SYIL, and it's the only one that can be made to take 240 volt supply. Can you get 3-phase? Is it easy to get 3-phase in your area? Some areas will have 3-phase generally available to them if you're in an industrial unit, but it might take a bit more time to bring in a 3-phase supply using the electricity board. So for example, if you wanted to install one in your house, a 3-phase supply, then this is something that you really need to balance up against maybe getting a rotary phase converter. Our machines do work with rotary phase converters, and this also gives you a decently good 3-phase supply, but it will limit you to how much power you're able to get the machine out of it. I would not recommend a rotary phase converter for machines larger than the X7, because then you need to have a much larger rotary phase converter and also a much larger single phase supply to the rotary phase converter. Most of the ones that we have supplied in the past are able to run on 32 amps, yes, and those will run the X7 fine all the way to its limit. But the X9 and X11, I would advise against going rotary phase converter unless it's a super must and you're able to get a very large single phase supply in. Where I stand on this is get yourself a machine that is 3-phase. That will open up all the possibilities. So you're not limiting yourself to just the LNC controller. You can get other controllers like the SYIL 22MA, 220MA, and also the Siemens. And then it will also allow you to grow. 3-phase machines are also much easier to sell on to smaller businesses later on. Second question, can my budget stretch? This is something that you need to look at the price list that will be given to you to make your decisions. There are cases where it doesn't make sense, for example, for you to go and buy the most expensive controller if you have a budget that limits you to a cheaper controller. So the cheaper controllers will also potentially have a different power curve in the spindles, but you need to look at what other options you need to buy. Example, you don't need to buy a 30,000 RPM spindle if your priority is to have a 4th axis or a 5th axis. Talking about 5th axes and 4th axes, for that matter, the machines do not ship from the factory as multi-axis ready. So if you buy a three-axis machine, XYZ only, it will be a very expensive operation, not only to get the components into the country for the conversion, but also for us as resellers to come out and install it. So where I would potentially make a balance is don't buy the wireless probe if your budget doesn't stretch for the wireless probe and the fourth axis. 5-axis machines are not so popular at this point in time because the 5-axis unit does take up a lot of space. If you need it, you need it. Sadly, they will only come in the SYIL 220MA control for now, because the other options that are available to you are very, very expensive. Final question, final point on this slide is how much tinkering am I going to do? Point number one. The machine does not need tinkering. It should come to you from the factory fully functioning, fully assembled and tested. If we have issues that have been generated either by the factory forgetting something or during shipping, we will take care of them. So you shouldn't need to mess about with them. However, we do not lock down the controls, which means that you will be given, or you'll be able to find the passwords to go in and change parameters and also to improve your workflows. Or if you wanted to write your own macros, we don't limit the number of macros. We don't limit you to not have not make your own screens if you wanted. So nothing in the controller itself, whether it's a Siemens, whether it's a Fanuc or a SYIL or a LNC, is locked down. What I would recommend is learn slowly. If you need to tinker, if you need to make customizations on your own, ask the community that's already done it, or ask us and we'll point you in the right direction. Do not compromise reliability of your machine just to play around. It's not a toy, it's not a DIY machine, these are production machines, and as such, some functions do not exist in there because they haven't been developed and they haven't been debugged. But if you know what you're doing, do share with us what you come up with. So let's go into controller options, because this is the first hurdle that people come in and find. From left to right, I'm going in the direction of price increase. So the cheapest option, or the most value for money option, would be the LNC 6800. The LNC 6800, I have to admit, when we first started shipping these, I was not 100% convinced. I didn't know them, I hadn't come across them, they were small, they were Asian based, they did scare me. But over the years, I've had customers that have fallen in love with them so much that they're getting their second machine based on the LNC. One of my partners here in the UK is also producing specialist screens for those, so it's proven itself to me and to our customers, and we're very, very happy with them. It's got nothing to be jealous of compared to the other controllers. Second one up is a customized Syntek controller, and it's customized to be a SYIL base. They've got their own front end and skin, much more improved than the original one. And Syntek USA has also been working with SYIL through our friend on YouTube that goes under Nerdly, so Jason there. And they've produced a few screens, and also they've made it much prettier. It is a very good controller from what I'm hearing. We haven't shipped any to the UK just yet, because most of my customers will go with the LNC, or in the previous years they would go with Siemens. But I'm looking forward to getting one of these in the UK shortly. It's more powerful than one expects. For example, there are things in the Syntek that you wouldn't find on some of the more budget controllers. Moving on, we've got The Siemens 828, I think that doesn't need much of an introduction. And of course the Fanuc 0IMF Plus. The Siemens is an industry standard. It's got a lot of options inside already. You can get more options on the mall. I'm not currently sure 100% whether the machine ships with shop mill, but I have the understanding that it does. I need to confirm. But shop mill and some of the more advanced probing functions can also be bought from Siemens directly for not too much money, in fact. Let's look at them each at its own time. Like I said, the LNC, very good value for money. It's fast, reliable, dependable. It can run up to 6 axes, but that is limited by the fact that it doesn't have the tool center point control, or the RTCP as they call it. So you can't use full 5-axis capabilities. It also is missing the inverse time functionality, which is something that multi-axis programming uses. It has been proven, and I think most of the machines that have been shipped around the world do come with the LNC, either 5800 or the 6800. And of course, it is the only option if you've got a single phase machine. As with all of the controllers that we have in the range, they are networkable. So there was quite a lot of discussion in the Facebook group on how do you get the PC that you're running, either a sort of Windows-based or Mac-based, to send files directly to it so you don't have to walk around with USB sticks. And we have discovered that you can also even put a USB to Wi-Fi dongle and move that to the Wi-Fi, and you can then drag and drop files onto the machine. Because it's a budget controller, there is going to be a spindle power limit, and that it comes based on the availability of the motors that are compatible with the drivers that LNC supplies. So when, I think this is a point that's worth making, is that when we talk about an LNC based package, everything on there is LNC. So the LNC controller comes with LNC EtherCAT drivers for your servo motors, comes with an LNC spindle driver as well. And then the motors themselves that go onto the machine are supplied by LNC, or Advantech in this case. There is also a simulator that works on a virtual machine. Incidentally, I have meetings with LNC going forward because we would like to have a lot more local support for LNC within Europe, starting with the UK. The SYIL 22MA, or Syntek M22MA, however you've come across it, is a very capable controller. It's got functions that previous controllers like the Siemens 808 did not have. It's cheaper than the 808, which is making it a very good value for money controller. And we've also seen quite a good response from Syntek USA and Syntek China regarding, let's say, aftermarket questions or questions that have come up during the warranty period. Syntek USA in particular have also been happy to work with us, and I've had meetings and conversations with the team out in the USA to see how we can improve the workflow and also improve the user interface of the controller. And it's the only controller that we do at this point in time that does true, and I'm talking about, you know, center point control 5-axis machining. And this really puts some of the larger boys to shame that are 3+2 as opposed to full 5-axis. There is a simulator available, and this one you can get in touch with me later on offline to get a copy of it. It is purely a 3-phase machine when you come with a Syntek. I think that there has been some good success running. Not that I think, I know that there's been good success running this particular build with a rotary phase converter, and you will be able to find quite a few YouTube videos on this. Finally, well, not fine. Yes, finally, the Siemens 828D is the, like we said, the industry standard. It's very well documented. It's expandable with multiple options that you can download or buy from Siemens directly. Things like Renishaw probes already exist and have been implemented with them for years. However, where it really falls over, and this I can't stress enough, is the fact that through the pandemic, through the current crisis that the world is going through, the lead times have gotten atrocious. Siemens has been struggling to get the components to be able to build their controllers, and that has a very bad knock-on effect on the lead times. So when somebody really wants a Siemens, then they really want a Siemens, and we will respect that and we will do it. But you do need to understand that there will be a longer lead time than, for example, the LNC or the SYIL 22MAs. Again, they're Siemens, so they're a lot more money. You do need three-phase supply, and you can also get a Sinutrain simulator, which there's quite a lot of YouTube videos on that. Mr. CNC on YouTube is basically the mentor to follow, and of course there's a ton of other tutorials on how to make screens and so on. Finally, the Fanuc. I don't have much to say really about the Fanuc. I don't know the Fanuc personally. Same league as the Siemens. Not seen a SYIL with a Fanuc for a few years now. Maybe we'll start seeing them with the X11 because they're going more into the industrial space. But I'll wait to see those and learn how to use them as time progresses. Again, only three-phase machines and three-phase supplies are required for these. Okay, so do my people in the chat have any questions at this point in time? Should we take a break here and get any thoughts on what you've heard about the controllers and the machine sizes? I guess not. Okay, moving on. Any SYIL you buy from as of 2020 is set out as a standard machine. So let's say the package that you buy, if you say, I would like to, if you look at the catalog and the price lists, the first line that you see is a fully featured machine. As of 2022, when you say I'm buying a SYIL X7 with an LNC, it will come with the enclosure as standard. It will come with all the bits that come with the enclosure. For example, a very high flow rate coolant pump, as you can see the photograph with the gun. It gives a lot of head of water. It's got the 12 tool ATC, 12,000 RPM spindle, air guns, air hoses, so you've got a fully functioning machine. Then from there is where we can start to improve on it with options. So every machine, epoxy granite, 12,000 RPM spindle, ATC, 12 tool ATC, or in some cases on the larger models it will be an arm type with 16 or 21. And also, before I forget it, the STAC. And the STAC stands for SYIL Thermal Accuracy Compensator. And that is a software and hardware solution to improve the temperature stability or the temperature compensation or the accuracy of the machine over a temperature range. So as your machine tool gets warmer, or if you've got large fluctuations inside your workshop, the STAC should be able to take care of those. What we've tried to do is try to pack in as much of the standard features, some of the stuff that you would expect into the package or into any package. So it's not like, yeah, well, we'll give you a synthetically low price, and then if you want to actually get a machine that works, you're going to have to add a coolant pump, an automatic tool changer, this, that, and the other. It's much more transparent nowadays. I do have a question on the X9 and X11 on the height of these. If you have to ask what the height is, potentially you might not be able to fit them in. I will be able to get you the numbers offline, so do message me or DM me for those numbers. I don't have them to hand, unfortunately. Through spindle coolant is available on the larger machines, so the X9 and the X11. On the X7, it is only available with the 30,000 RPM spindle. And in all cases, it's 20 bar plus pressure. So moving on. I'll come back to those points again later on. From the standard machine, we also have the options. And it really is the options that make your machine yours. It makes our life a little bit more difficult when it comes down to building the machine. However, there are some stuff that it's 100% worth getting with the machine itself. I don't see why anybody would want to get a machine without a tool length setter. It is, in my mind, one of the most valuable and least costly expansion options that you can get. If you're struggling to finance the £750 or £850 that it costs, then we can potentially start looking at other options for you. However, do get it with the machine as built, because then it'll be set up and calibrated and ready to go. We can upgrade the ATC on certain models. So for example, on the X7, we can go from a 12 tool umbrella style to a 16 tool arm style ATC. Again, this is down to your particular preference and how many tools you expect to see. One other point is, what kind of materials are you going to be cutting? If you're using plastics, then I do recommend the 16 tool ATC, because it keeps the shanks of your BT30 holders clean, whereas the umbrella, it can get a bit messy. Fourth and fifth axes, always with a machine. Please, please, please save money somewhere else. If you think that you need a fourth axis, definitely get it with a machine. It'll cost you significantly more to buy it as an upgrade later. If I have to come out and install it for you, if anybody else needs to come out and install it for you, or we get the shipping and all the other stuff involved, it costs way more than it should. So get it with a machine, save a ton of money. Fifth axis, of course, you understand that because there's a lot of calibrations and a lot of measurements and setup that needs to be done, that needs to come from the factory as well. For the fourth axis, we do have a range of tailstocks. The standard tailstock is literally like a lathe tailstock, so that you can make very simple trunnions or hold bars. There are options to use pneumatic tailstocks, so if you're making trunnions where you want to swing a vise that's quite heavy, we do have the option for that. However, it's not something that you would get standard, so do speak to either SYIL factory or myself to recommend them. Spindles are also upgradable, some machines more than others. X5, for example, starts out with a 20,000 RPM spindle. You might not need more than that. But on the X7 and on the larger machines, X9 and X11, we can either do a 24 or a 30,000 RPM spindle. And because they are such high velocity, high speed spindles, they do come with HSK tapers. The HSK taper changes depending on which model you buy. Recently, we've delivered an X7 with an HSK 40E with full through spindle coolant, 20 bar. It's an amazing piece of kit, and there's quite a lot of bits that come with it. The actual through spindle coolant, like I said, the X9 and X11 are a lot more suited to that because they've got a larger spindle cartridge and because of all of the hydraulics that need to come through. That's where it all fits in when you've got the space. Wireless probing, so you can pick up your works coordinate systems. That is something that a lot of people are retrofitting now. We've seen a number of companies that have come in. Geotronics, you've got EMG Precision in the UK. We've got other companies that make much cheaper probes, and they've been used in there, mainly with a wired probe. But the wireless probing is a infrared Renshaw type affair. Pretty expensive. If you need it, you need it. I think of it as a luxury because you can do a lot of what you needed to do with well, even an edge finder or a Heimer type probe, but weigh it up. Maybe in your country it makes a lot more sense to get the probe fully functioning from the factory. All of the machines will ship with macros that function with the Pioneer probe that we ship with the machines, but there have been cases where people have modified those to use other probes. A filter mist, for those that are not familiar with, is a contraption that sits on top of your machine and it actually sucks in all of the mist, the coolant mist that is generated through cutting, either through the evaporation of the water inside your coolant or from the flinging of the coolant off face mills. It's becoming quite a recommended option in the UK. I know that the Health and Safety and Environment Department, the HSE in the UK, is quite keen on seeing them in place, especially in larger factories. Rule of thumb, if you're doing a very high speed, if you're doing very long hours, if you're doing steels or plastics where you're running through the material very, very quickly, or if you open the door and you typically see a haze inside your machine, worth getting a filter mist. For the more productive ones out there that tend to find that they're having trouble with chip management during the cut, yes, we also offer chip conveyors. I'm not sure about the X5 yet. It might be something that's going to come later on, but all of the other machines, X7 to X11, do come with an optional chip conveyor. And from the price lists that I've seen, especially for the larger machines, I think the chip conveyor that we offer is very, very good value. Briefly discussed STAC, and I said that as standard STAC, the thermal accuracy compensation is available for the spindle. However, with a little bit more money, we can at the factory unlock the full compensation. So you can compensate not just your spindle, but your X, Y, and Z axes for linear expansions and thermal expansions, which I would also couple with laser error correction of the ball screws. And what that does is we place a target inside the spindle and we have a laser pointed at that target or on the bed or wherever we've got the target, and it measures the incremental errors per pitch. So for example, we can make a map of the whole lead screw where the small deviations of typically 3 microns over 30 centimeters of travel, so yes, very, very small, can be compensated for, so that the controllers know that if they pass a particular point, they need to give a bit more steps or a few less steps to compensate for those. And we're able to get the accuracy and repeatability of these machines down to 2 microns, 1 micron, depending on how good the spindle is. And of course, there's always going to be variability in that. Oh, I seem to have put these in double. So final point is the through spindle coolant. Through spindle coolant available on the larger machines or the 30,000 RPM on the X7. Let's dive deeper into each one of these options as well. The probing, the standard tool length probe actually will also do diameter. So we've got the TTC 200, which is supplied by Pioneer. It's got a breakaway nose, so it doesn't damage the actual body of the probe if you were to slam your face mill into the side of it. It does tool length very, very well. Diameter, it does well if you calibrate it, in the sense, if you dial it in. So you need to find the center of the target, the white target on the top of it. You can use the macros for that, but you need to also then rotate the target such that it is parallel to the bed as well as possible. And then it will also give you a decent diameter reading as well of your cutting tool. Fully integrated into the GUI on the Siemens and on the Syntek as standard, not on the LNC. However, we do have extra screens for that. You need to contact my company Envio for those extra screens. All the macros for it are inside the controller already, but you can also use the graphical user interface to measure the lengths at least of each of your tools. Reminder that with this tool length probe, we use positive tool length offsets, so you will need to create a master tool of known length to be able to calibrate it. Wireless probing, as I said, I consider it a luxury item. It's very, very precise, very expensive, and it's got GUIs in the LNC and the 22MA already. I'm not 100% sure whether the Siemens 828 has the GUI inside, but if it doesn't, the measurement cycles are not that expensive to buy off the mall. Personal opinion on the wireless probe, again, if you're having a dilemma between the probe and the fourth axis always wins in my mind. Tool changers, another hot topic of discussion. Only the X7 allows you a choice. There you can either go with a cheaper 12 tool umbrella type tool changer or the 16 tool. There is a significant price difference. There is significant improvement in efficiency with those 4 tools, and the time from chip to chip for the ARM type is significantly faster. Added bonus for your 16 tool is that unlike the 12 tool ATC, where we have to have the coolant hoses on the right hand side of the head, we also have a nice coolant ring arrangement, so you can point the nozzles all around the head, as you can see in that photograph underneath my webcam stream. High-speed spindles and through coolant in this case. The high-speed spindles are for those that really need the high-speed spindles. So for example, if you're doing small stuff, plastics, aluminium, it might make sense for you to go down the route of the high-speed spindles. They do have torque load down, however, they are meant to be spinning at a very high speed. There's a huge cost in the tooling, so bear that in mind. For example, BT30 spindle tooling are about $25 a pop, 17 pounds. In the UK, sometimes under offer. The HSK stuff can be 3-4 times whatever they are. So bear that in mind when you're making the decision. If you need to make very fine stuff and you know that the machine that you're buying is specifically made for the fine stuff, then by all means let's start discussing it. This also opens up the possibility of through spindle coolant, and we do have machines out there currently, X7s with a through spindle coolant, and it is very, very impressive, I have to say. At 20 bar, it can run angle heads, it can run all sorts of accessories as well, and the coolant system that comes with it is also very intelligent. I would advise against going down the route of Fanuc and Siemens controls when it comes to these high-speed spindles with through spindle coolant, because they want you to go with either their motors or motors that are supplied to you that are really bespoke to their particular systems. And those ones not only cost a lot more, but they also increase your lead times. This is one of the reasons why in earlier this year we delivered a machine with an LNC and the 30,000 RPM spindle. Extra axes is, like we said, but it's up to you. I like buying my demo machines with 4th axes, again, because the factory will put them all together and we will not have to worry about doing them later on. But although all controllers that we do will do 4-axis work, 5-axis is only sold with the SYIL 220MA, which is effectively the upgraded version of the 22MA. Same visual and sort of graphical user interface, but it has a few upgrades like sensor point control and other more advanced functions. Right, can I ask for customizations? You can ask. When we talk about customizations, we mean anything from additional I/O boards in the back to the electrical cabinets on wheels, to a different spindle, to a different tool setter. All of these things we will try to work with you. But please don't be offended if we say we will not be able to do it, or we will not be able to guarantee results if you ask for something that is not standard. We will try, we will evaluate, and then come back to you. It is also very, very dependent on location. For example, you can ask for customizations for the Syntek controllers in the USA. They might charge you for the ability to do that, but maybe they will be able to help you. If you're in the UK, or if you're in any part of the world and you need stuff for the LNC, then do ask us. We've got very good partners that know a lot about the LNC, and like I said, we're trying to get MVO to work a bit more closely with LNC. More involved hardware type customizations, for example, off the top of my head, making the height or the throat height, so between the bottom of the spindle and its lowest Z height to the bed higher, or I don't know, adding a hide controller. That's something that MVO is looking to do, to be able to customize things and also expand the capabilities of the machines going forward, in discussion with various other funding bodies to be able to see whether we can take this project forward, so that MVO can also become a customization house for the SYIL X7s and so on. Out of the SYIL organization, there are plenty of expansions. For example, the Betz Technic AccuBlast, that because the owner of Betz Technic, Peter, actually owns an X7 and is working very closely with anybody that's got any interest in improving the offering. He is integrating that. He's integrated with the Siemens. We've got teams integrating this with the LNC very, very nicely. And of course, it's a component that he is selling directly to the likes of Mazak. So it's a very good piece of kit, and it allows you to program the point at which you're pointing your coolant nozzles. Another very good partner of ours is Alexander at Mlock. M-Lock produced some very nifty vices, and I'll be putting a link in the description for that, because going forward we're looking to start offering an automatic machine tending solution whereby you get your machine, you get your robotic arm, and at the other side you also get a host of vices that come on a rack so that you can buy a whole package, can be integrated on your location or prior to delivery through MVO or whoever else is reselling around the world, and you've got yourself an automatically tended machine. I'll go straight into the ordering process. If you have any questions, please do write them in the chat so that I can see them and respond to them as they come up. Okay, so the ordering process. This is something that I wish there was a reseller in every location so that we could serve all of you interested people much better. Sadly, there are not many actual partners. There's one in Singapore, there's one in Canada, one in the US, and one in the UK. Through Brexit, sadly, I am unable to offer the European partners the best prices, but I will always support you in Europe with advice up until the point where MVO establishes a base in Europe, and that is something that I'm very, very keen to do. Just waiting for a few things to fall into place, and then we'll be able to supply to anybody in Europe through one of our sales bases there. So if you're in the US, UK, Canada, or Singapore, you can contact your local distribution partner. In the UK, if you type in SYIL.com, it'll throw you towards my website, the uk.syil.com website, the same for the US. And in there, you'll get all the information that you'll need, the contact information, etc., etc. You would potentially ask for a quotation whereby you submit your phone number and your email address, and I will get in touch with you. At that point, we start the conversation. I will guide you through the selection of the machine and what options you need. And that will take into account all of the stuff that we discussed previously. So what do you want the machine to do? Do you have the space? Do you have the power? Do you have the vision going forward to need more machines? What is it you want the machine to do, etc., etc. Once we're agreed, hopefully we'll be able to put you in touch with somebody that's got a similar machine to yours, and you can go to their place and have a look at the machine if we do not have a demo machine. My demo machine was slightly delayed this year due to customs out in China, so until it turns up, I'm going to be at the Mach 2022 exhibition, so you can come and have a look at that. Or we will try and find somebody that's in close to your area for you to go and visit. A deposit is then required to start the build of the machine, and that deposit is 50% typically, but depending on the lead time of the machines, let's have a discussion. There might be circumstances whereby we're able to change that percentage at the build. At any point in time, speaking for MVO Engineering and SYIL UK, I will want to make sure that you as a customer are safe. So yes, you put down a deposit, and we will try and make sure that you are happy at the point at which you're parting with your money. If at some point you turn around and you say, actually things have changed, then we will not be able to refund that deposit because it's a built to order machine up until we have found a replacement buyer for your machine. And in many cases, that's not too difficult to find. There are cases, for example, where we built a machine for the UK market, the customer cancelled because of changing circumstances, we were able to send that machine out to Belgium. So feel safe and feel reassured in that sense from the deposit. When the machine is finally ready, the factory will send us the proof of life record, and that involves photographs of the machine, photographs of the serial number on the casting. We will also get a checklist, which is basically the inspection checklist for the machine, and photographs of any, I think there's also a video sometimes, but any accessories that you may have ordered, we'll get them. At that point, the balance for the machine is due. So if you paid 50%, then the remainder 50% is due. And you'll pay that to your reseller or to myself or to the factory, and that's when the machine starts the process of getting shipped. The process of getting shipped is a very long conversation that if you're buying from a reseller, you don't have to worry about. But if you're buying it directly from the factory, then do get in touch for some tips and tricks. Otherwise, have a look at Emergro knives. I hope I'm saying that correctly. But there is a video on there about the process of importing there's a YouTube video on the process of importing a SYIL CNC machine tool all the way from China. The prices that are quoted are potentially incorrect at this point in time because of all of the weird and wonderful things, or weird and scary things that are happening in the world at this point in time. But the process is the same, and you always have to face the same problems. Finally, the sale is a business-to-business sale. You might be a consumer, you might not be a business yourself. However, there is no way that we will be able to supply a industrial machine under the terms and conditions of the Consumer Act. So this is something that you really need to be aware of when you're buying these machines. Lead times, huge sticking point, especially for us small operators at MVO. If you're in the States where the team have stock of machines and they buy container loads of machines at the same time, you might be lucky and you walk into their warehouse, or you speak to Wesley and Jeff and Paul out there, and they have the machine that you want. If they don't and you have to build one, then there are things that you need to be aware of. So if we go with the LNC and the 22MA controls, we can build a machine very, very quickly. LNC has good stock levels in general, and there's a warehouse in LNC have got a warehouse very close to the factory, and of course the Syntek or the SYIL 22MA controls again are very easy to get into production. So there's not much wait. You're just waiting for the previous machines that have been ordered to be finished so that your turn comes about. The electronics will be severely impacted by the natural phenomena. So for example, in the beginning of the pandemic, we were struggling to find Siemens components because Siemens was unable to, first of all, find chips. Second, they had lost a lot of their workforce, and then also shipping costs from either Germany or wherever else the factories were to China, if the controllers were not built in China, were a killer. So do bear that in mind. It does affect the lead time of your machine. Typically, the X works build time, so from the point of order to the point where your machine is ready to go, ready to leave, we're quoting 10 to 12 weeks. In most cases, it is less than that. But you do, please be aware that China has its own holidays. So we will quote 10 to 12 weeks. If Chinese New Year comes into it, or if any other holidays comes into it, or there's an outbreak in Ningbo, or there's an outbreak in the areas around, coronavirus or whatever, these will affect, and they are thus something that you need to account for. as a customer. We will do our best to ensure that there is a quick delivery, but please do be understanding that these machines are built to your specification, um, so lead times will vary. From there, it's just a matter of getting on the boat, and typically within 2 weeks of the machine being built, it's on the boat and on the water. Speaking for myself, every machine that leaves China will leave predominantly from Ningbo or Shanghai, and within 4 weeks of it being on the water, it's maybe another 2-3 days afterwards, it's in your factory, and it will arrive fully insured, of course, from door to door. Moving on into installation. So we've done all of the hard work. Now let's go and do some of the harder work, or the more pleasant work, and that's the installation. None of these machines are light, so you will need to either be experienced with lifting heavy things, or you will need to have people to assist you. The minimum you will need is a forklift to be able to get it off the lorry. When you buy a machine from us in the UK, I quote you a price for the machine to reach your door. What that means is that a truck with a curtain side will turn up. If it's one of the smaller machines, the 5 or the 7, we'll need to figure out whether the 9 is the same. And it will be your responsibility to get it off the truck. That way, I'm able to give you, let's say, the most value for money and the ability for you to choose the operators for installation. The UK is not very big, however, it's best to have somebody with, let's say, a rigger, as they call them in the States, closer to yourselves to be able to unload the machine, seat it, and so on and so forth. If you're struggling, or if you don't have anybody, ask me, I will organize it for you. So we can organize an installation with a forklift or a crane, and these guys are all insured, they're experienced. Even the small company will do a good job. There's a photograph on that slide of a machine that was tipped over at an exhibition. Please do not send me any of those with a SYIL. Yeah, I don't think my heart will be able to stand the ache of that and the pain of a machine ending up like that. So bottom line, do not risk it. If you do not know, if you've never lifted machines like this, or if you're not experienced with lifting in general, let us help you by subcontracting that or getting more knowledgeable people involved. X5 and X7 have got 3 points of contact with the floor, so they're quite easy to level, but you do need to ensure that the combined weight of the machine plus any lifting equipment that's going into your workshop are taken into account. So mezzanine floors, definitely not, unless they're able to take 2 tons over the square foot footprint of the machine. And of course, you know, when we're coming to the installation, you do need to take care of your access, roller shutter doors, and of course we've got the question of the height. Moving on. Access. Okay. I'm showing you photographs of a X5 combo that I installed. This was the last machine that I installed in 2020, just before we went into lockdown. Spent a couple of days out in Margate in Kent, UK, and we had to put this X5 through an 80 centimeter wide door because that was the only space that they had. They wanted it in a small laboratory. The factory had done us the favor of putting the electrical cabinet on wheels, and then I spent a day and a half disassembling it so that we can put every piece of sheet metal on the pallet, put it through the window of the first floor, you know, so ground first floor, and then reassemble everything and test and calibrate and make sure that everything was working perfectly, because this is the company that does very precise crystal work, and I needed to make sure that their machine was accurate to within the specification of it. It is a paid for service. So if we're struggling with the access, if you're struggling to go through the doors, then let's see if we can get a smaller machine for yourself. So if you're struggling with the X7, can we get an X5 in there? X9s and X11s, I mean, if we're struggling, if we have to ask, for 2.5 meters, I would imagine that it would be the minimum height that you would need to be able to run the machine, and maybe a bit less for going through doors. But again, when we're coming to spec the machine for you, let's have a look at the access as well. So these are the questions that we will definitely ask you. Luckily, I haven't had to break down an X7, but there might be the case that we will have to do that if one of the orders comes through later on in the year. What about commissioning? Okay, so you've bought the machine, it's arrived, you put it down. What do you do then? How do you connect all the services? How do you connect the electrics and so on? I'm working on checklists because we're not getting these from the factory as quickly as we wanted to, but there is a lot of information that's just a bit sparse on the website, that is support.syil.com. Most of the customers, to save money, or if they're in a remote location, or if they're in locations whereby there isn't a local representative, will commission the machines themselves. And it's not difficult. The machine is not sent to you in boxes like some of the other machines that you see around, where the customer spends a week trying to take the twist out of the bed. No. All of the machines are fully assembled when they arrive. And this is why I'm saying that it should turn up, and with minimum effort, you should be producing components. We can commission the machine for you for a fee anywhere in the UK, and also in any European country that is not being currently invaded. You do need to cover the fees plus the overnight and the travel costs. Typically 1 to 2 days on site by one of our representatives, either myself or somebody else, and we'll also offer you user training. Commissioning generally consists really of just cleaning the shipping grease off the machine, inspecting that everything is fine, making sure that the electrical cabinet is all still in single piece, and that all of the cables are properly connected. Make sure that all the ground circuits are good. Test all the electrical circuits that you can. Make sure that you've got the phases of the 3-phase in the correct sequence. Typically, I'll just check the coolant pump is rotating in the right direction. Fill up the coolant tank to make sure that there's no leaks in there, and then connect the services. Finally, you'll do a full function test whereby you start doing the rapids, you run a test program, you make sure that all the ATC stuff is good. And then we come to the cutting functionality. And cutting functionality is not something that I'd be able to guarantee that I'll be able to do, because traveling with a full complement of tools is not something that we would like to do. Especially if we're flying out to Europe, if you do not have cutting tools, or if you do not have tool holders, it'll be very difficult for me to demonstrate the actual cutting of it. If you need tools coming to that point, do get in touch. For the UK market, or with machines bought from me, I will be able to supply tools to at least get you started. Full complement, from vices, clamping straps, all the way through to cutting tools. And we have done that before with a number of customers, where they said, okay, George, I need to cut titanium, I need to cut aluminium, I need to have a face mill, I need to have vices, this, that, and the other. And MVO will be able to supply that. Ask me for a price list. Anything else that you might need, we'll figure it out. We'll be able to supply it, and I've already got a price list for things like extended warranties, or I've got tooling packages already built for you as well. Okay, so what other bits do you need to start cutting? Oh, we talked about the work and tool holding. A good vise is mandatory. It doesn't need to be a very expensive one, but at least it needs to be something that doesn't bow out. So as you putting the two jaws together, it doesn't flip open. That the jaws are preferably replaceable so that you can put soft jaws. A lot of people are using soft jaws to do two-sided work. You will need a decent clamping kit. You do not need to spend a lot of money in the clamping kit, but make sure that it's got the right sizes for you. So for the X7, for example, you need to use the 14mm wide T-nuts. Get a ton of T-nuts. You cannot have enough T-nuts. They're cheap to buy on their own, and in worst case, when it comes down to studs and nuts, you can just use a piece of threaded bar and cut it to length. If you're a bit more posh and you've got some money and you want to do multiple operations or multiple setups, start thinking about 0-point systems. In the next few months, I will be bringing out a set of 0-point systems base plates that should be compatible with more commonly used ones. Starting out with manually operated ones, but potentially going down the route of pneumatic ones. Then tool holders. BT30 tool holders, SK40 or BT40 tool holders, we can definitely find in the UK. It's when we start talking about the very high speed stuff, for example, the HSK 63 and the HSK 40E, that we need to start looking at bringing them in with your machine, because it makes a lot more sense to buy them from China or Taiwan or Japan than it does to start trying to find them from Germany if you're in the UK or in the UK. Cutting tool, your choice. If you need advice, there's plenty of advice from the cutting tool suppliers. I have some experience, I have to say. I will be able to advise, but I'm not a cutting tool expert. So if you've got a particular application, I might be able to point you in the direction of companies that produce form tooling, but otherwise there are plenty of resellers around that will be able to advise you on specific cutting tools for your application. Same goes with coolant. Coolant is a personal choice, and it's also sometimes dictated by the water that you have in your area. Again, yeah, you might like the translucent stuff, the semi sort of milky stuff. You might like the sort of crystal clear stuff. Totally up to you. But what I will say is that no matter what you go down in terms of coolant, you will also need to make sure that it's compatible with the lubricants that you're using. So you need some air tool oil for the pneumatics, actuators, and of course the drawbars, the ATC. So you need to get some of that. A litre will last you a long time because you don't need a lot of oil inside the airlines. And then for the ways, it's not a slideway specific oil. It can be a slideway oil, but gear oil for the screws and rails. And also if you're running the 4th axis with the worm drive, you will also need to fill that one up as well. Slideway oil, viscosities of 32 to 68, ISO, pretty standard stuff. If you find something that you like and you can use it, I'm more than sure that it'll be fine. Finally, servicing. We can offer you a servicing agreement in the UK. You might be able to find somebody local to you, whether you're in the US or Canada, that will be able to do CNC servicing. I work with King Machine Tool Services, and they also do bull bar stuff, so they can inspect your machine to make sure that it's good when it arrives and is good every year. we're able to offer you an extended warranty. So for the first year, it's cheaper than for the remaining years, and what that would cover is things like the controller, or defects with manufacturing. We'll not be able to do wear and tear items, but things that you would like, it's an insurance to make sure that something that originally was there can be proven. It's totally up to you whether you go down that route for the extended warranties, but the benefit of it is that you will also get the servicing once a year, and the ball bar inspections, and so on and so forth. We can support you remotely. So, for example, if you're in a place where they don't have a local representative, so in like Australia, or somewhere in Europe before I get to Europe, and you need help with servicing, then get in touch. We might be able to get somebody either out to you, put you in touch with somebody that knows the SYIL machines, or be able to advise you over Skype, Zoom, WeChat, WhatsApp, whatever. And as we go forward, there will also be quite a lot of DIY sort of repair articles in the support.syil.com website. I should be posting that in the link description. Finally, that's my last slide. It's open to you. I've got time. I've got no rush tonight. Any questions that you lovely people will have, please ask them now, so that the rest of the community will be able to benefit. Another good source of information will be the Facebook group. We've got quite a few active users on the Facebook group, and there's a lot of discussion on there. We might get snappy with people. We're all human. But you do need to remember that the SYIL machines are industrial machines. So they may not have all of the function that you're used to coming from Mach 3 or Linux CNC, because the priority of the controller manufacturers are the reliability and the warranty ability of the controllers. Anything extra, we will support you, but it's not going to be becoming a standard. So a classic example is the probing GUIs. For many years, I would advise not to go down the probe because there isn't a GUI in there. But as time has progressed and we've started to get more clever people joining the Facebook group, of clever people buying the machines, we started seeing that, first of all, we have post processors now that you can run Fusion 360 and get the probing processes out, or we've got them on the graphical user interface. So things like this will always progress. The latest news will be on the Facebook group, because the CEO, Mr. Shushao of SYIL, is on there, and he interacts with the community directly. So take advantage of that. So I'm on there as well, and I'm helping people all over the world, and so are the guys from the United States. Yes, I think that's all I had to say for you, off the top of my head, and also from the presentation that I've prepared for you. I'll leave the floor open for another 10 minutes. Please send me through any questions that you might have. If there aren't any questions, then we can carry on from there. Tomasz, thank you very much for your question. Yes, what compressor in particular would you recommend? The X7 doesn't need a lot of air. None of the machines, X5 or X7, need a lot of air. I'm not sure about the larger machines. There is one particular case, I'll explain that in a second. But basically, the X5, X7 with a 50-liter compressor, I use a silent compressor in my workshop. It sounds like a fridge going off. 50 liters is more than enough, because unless you are leaking air, For example, if you have a minimum quantity lubrication system or a mist coolant system, then you only need it for the short bursts of the automatic tool changer. If you go down the route now of a high-speed spindle like the HSK, we have found that there is an air curtain on the inside of the high-speed spindle, and for 10 minutes you'll be leaking air through it. It's PLC controlled, so it keeps the spindle itself, some of the spindle bearings cool, and it also gets rid of any of the moisture inside the spindle bearing, so it also lubricates them. At that point, yes, you do need to have a lot of air, but if it's just normal operation where you don't have minimal quantity lubrication or you don't have the high-speed spindle, 50 liters, 90 to 120 psi, 90 to 120 psi pressure is more than sufficient. Is it possible to add a chip conveyor later on? Yes, it is, depending on the machine you've got. So the 2020 models, the coolant tray was slightly different to the ones that have been offered in 2021 and 2022. The latter ones are much more optimized for the chip conveyor. You should actually be able to put one on your own, and I know from having looked that you could potentially get augers from the likes of Alibaba or AliExpress and stuff like that. The reason we don't have a lot of information on the SYIL website is because it's the chip conveyor is something that is new. Speak to Ken or speak to myself. I'll be able to get you all the information for the chip conveyor. I'm here for your questions again. If there's any other ones, please type them in the chat. We have quite a few people on the actual live stream. I'm very appreciative of your time. I wasn't expecting to have so many people on there. Brilliant. Commissioning price list. So, Tomasz, where are you? That if you're in Europe, it will be me. So I will type in the email address. Well, actually, you'll be able to find it from our website. Just send an email to the info at mvoeng.com. I'll put that in the comments. Send it there so that I can find out where you are. From there, we'll make a plan. I hazard that you might be in Poland. But yes, so we've got Horvath, Hungary, and maybe you're in Poland. Oh God, yes, the manual. All right, there is a manual of sorts. If you go to support, if we go to support.syil.com, let me see if I can add that. Let's see if we can get that to share on the screen. I'll talk you through that now. Let's add it. Bear with me. Right, so let's transition to that. So basically, this is the website that support.syil.com is, and under here, this is where I'll be working along with Mr. Chen and Mr. Shushao to create all of the manuals. So if you go to the manuals and more and see all the articles under here, we'll be putting a lot more information. So click on the 7 series, see more, and you've got quite a lot of stuff in here. I've been working on the 7 and also on the 3D model files, but in here you will start getting information on how the machine looks, typical manual stuff. What you will not necessarily get is how to actually use the controller, and for that you do need to look into the controller manuals. So each controller is slightly different. If you need operation assistance, then give us a call. A lot of people are putting stuff on the web, and on YouTube on how to use those. We can also offer training on site, like I said. But all of the information that we're going to be needing, let's say for completeness and lifting instructions and stuff like that, will all be available in this page here. So let's say preparation, not 100% perfect, but a lot of the information that you'll need for the operation, for example, the lifting instructions are here. And I have also created a set of instructions showing how to use a forklift. The commissioning checklist will also come into here as well. Hopefully I will be able to create another video for you guys commissioning the X7, and from there we'll get my marketing people to maybe create a set of articles on that as well. So yeah. Yeah. The manuals, this is something that it's a bit of a sore point, because the manuals are something that it's quite difficult to get written correctly. The engineers that are building the machines are more, let's say, focused on making sure that the machines are all good and well, and then it's between myself, Mr. Chen out in China to create the manuals. Again, this is where I'm saying the contribution of MV Enterprises and MV Engineering is quite significant in the whole SYIL ecosystem. The Freddy is the quoted spindle power peak or continuous. There are, yes, that's a very good question. So we should be quoting you two different numbers. One number will be the rated. So for example, if we look at the brochures of the X7, let's have a look if we can bring one up. Bear with me. We don't go with peak, first of all. We go with rated. unlike the competition that talk about peak, rated is really where you want to be. So for example, on the LNC, we've got 2.2 kilowatts rated, 3 kilowatts max. For the Syntek, it's 5.5 kilowatts rated, 7 kilowatts max, 7.5 for the Siemens, and so on. So it's, yeah, we talk rated, not overload. So I just wanted to double check that on the SYIL stuff. Catalog and open new into. So let's swing back to you. So this is the handout that we give for the epoxy granite machines, and you will see here that the power rating is given here. So on LNC, that actually this is peak on the LNC, and this is rated for the Siemens 808 and so on. So I'll probably have to fix that, but yes, the 3 kilowatts is the maximum, so it's 2.2 rated. Thank you for pointing that out, Freddie. What you can find, however, is if, because we've asked that question quite a lot, if we go into the manuals and more, down at the bottom, you will start seeing the torque charts. So we've got the torque charts for the Siemens, and it gives you the ones for the, let's say, the Siemens 5.5 kilowatt spindle motor. You can see it there. And we also have that for the LNC and the Syntek. I know we did it for the LNC because recently one of my customers who's swapped out his Haas for a SYIL requested that, and we uploaded that in there as well. And let's see the Syntek. There you go. So this is for your axis motor as well as your spindle motors. I have a question for the group. With what we're with the machine that we're looking at, for example, the X7, is it a big problem for you guys to be working with a BT30? Is it a big problem with you guys to be working with, let's say, a 5.5 kilowatt max spindle? Because the beauty of the SYIL offering is that the rapids and the feed rates are massive. We're talking at, let's say, on the X7, we've got rapids of up to 30,000 millimeters per minute. So yeah, 30 meters per minute. it's ridiculously fast. It's actually quite scary to see the Z-axis going up at those speeds. And then the cutting feed rate, so within the rated torque of the servo motors on the axes, we still are quite fast. So maybe you could take lighter cuts at a higher speed, spindle speed. So, 8,000 RPM is roughly where the 12,000 RPM spindles excel. And then you can take lighter cuts but go much faster. You can also do a lot more adaptive stuff to take in that into consideration. So heavy cuts where you're face milling deep and stuff may be not the strong point of the SYIL X7 and the SYIL X5, but we're not, let's say, limiting ourselves because we can run significantly faster. Now, accuracy again also comes into it. So is it really so much of a problem if we don't have an 11 kilowatt spindle motor like some of the competition does? While we're looking for the while we're waiting for more questions, let me have a look at the height of the X9 and the X11, which was the conversation we had previously. I'll go back into the brochures. The quoted height on the X9 is 2.65 on the height. So that's, I'll need to double check this because we haven't actually built an X9. We've got the castings being produced at the moment, but the actual final figure might deviate slightly from the model figure. Again, we'll need to come back for that when I've got more information. And the X11, that one again about the same height. The good thing with the X11 is that most of the space is actually taken out lower down. So we've got a very nice large base, and there's no cable chain like the X7 extending past the top of the head. And it's got a lovely longitudinal travel of 800 millimeters, so that will put it definitely in the industrial size. I'm sorry to hear that, Chauvelin. Think of the future. Like you're going to put the machine into your garage, I would imagine now, but maybe in the future you might be wanting to get into a unit. What is it that you want the machine to do? And that's really where we start. Is it a startup business? Is it a hobby? However we look at it, it's a very expensive machine for a hobby, the X7. There is a potential for it to become a money earner, and we do have lots of people around the world that are earning a ton of money based on them. Some of them are surprised that even the cast iron machines produce the quality of work that they are producing. So, you know, the ability of the machine is there. Is your business really sort of that small that you need it? Or do we need a bit more, let's say, forethought? Do you need to go into bigger premises? Again, you know, this is the conversation that you need to have with yourself is, do I have the space, and what is my outlook further down the line? We will be able to advise, but it's your circumstances that will govern the size of it. The height at 265, yes, it's a problem if you're going into a garage because there are height restrictions. But if you walk down, if you take a step back and you say, okay, I'm investing in a machine that is costing me 45, 50,000 pounds, or whatever the equivalent is, maybe going to a bigger unit is worth it as well, because then it gives you more space to breathe, more space to grow. That balance and that discussion is where you need to have what you need to have with your business partners or with yourself, really. Thank you very much for confirming that the 5.5 is not too much of a problem. I've used machines with 1.5 all the way up to 10 kilowatts in the small form factor, and even with my old demo machine, you know, tapping M12s was not a problem in steel. So yes. Philip, nice to hear from you again. Yes, it's Well, no, you don't need special grade. Just use the same stuff. The ISO 32 and 68 hydraulic oil for gearheads. You see, unlike slideways, where you wanted the oil to form like a grease-like texture on the dovetails, the SYIL doesn't have dovetails. Another benefit: if something goes wrong in the slideway, we can replace the linear rail. We don't have to get it re-scraped and reground, or ground and re-scraped. It's, you know, you can use gear oil in the linear rails, and the same for the screws. What you do need to make sure is that it's thick enough, or that it's not over lubricated, because you want the balls inside the linear rails and in the ball screws to actually roll. You don't want them to slide. So yeah, go for it. It's yeah, slideway oil. You say slideway oil because that's rough, mostly what's available in machine shops. So you can use it, but gear, oh, even automotive gear stuff has been used before. Your mileage may vary on that one, but a worst case, if you're struggling to find, uh, let's say, a machine tool supplier or a machine tool supplies supplier, engineering supplier that will be able to get you specific for CNC or whatever, open up the catalog of Highwin or THK or whoever else makes linear bearings, see what they say. You might find that they've got like a mobile grade that is absolutely fine. A point on Chauvelin's comment saying that he's a CNC machinist. Sorry, I'm assuming it's a he. That they are a CNC machinist, and they're looking to start their own gig. A lot of people are doing that, and the especially now where COVID has onshored quite a lot of production, the small guys are actually quite sought after. You have to be good. You have to understand that it is a business. It's not always greener on your own business side, but it's very, very uh, rewarding when you get it right. I think we've got time for a few more questions. Do subscribe to the channel. I'm hoping that we'll get a lot more of these questions and answer sessions out, especially when I've got the demo machines. Reminder that we will be at the Mach 2022 exhibition in Birmingham, NEC. And come and have a chat. We'll have a very, very special machine on display. It'll be an X7 owned by Bespoke Engineering Design. Very good customers of mine that have bought um, their second SYIL. They loved the earlier one so much. And they are wizards when it comes to adding custom stuff on there. Doesn't do not think that what they're showing on there will be, let's say, the standard machine, but it will show definitely the capabilities of the LNC controller, and the owner of that machine will be on the stand to assist me. So you can ask any questions you like in person. We might be able to do a live stream while we're at the show, but that will depend on how busy we are. Um, We'll also have a big rep, large scale 3D printer on show, so it'll be worth coming just down to meet us in person. The Freddy, what would you recommend as a controller for someone whose prior experience is limited to hobby controls such as Mach 3, Mach 4, but wants to step up into more advanced concepts such as probing multi-axis? Oh dear. Okay. Um, Probing multi-axis comes down to you being able to code it. So all of the controllers will be able to do that. Whether the macros already exist for you to just write 3 lines of code and do it is a different story. Typically, the stuff that we want to do with probes is pick up works coordinate systems. So, for example, find the center of a hole, or find the corner of a stock, or find uh, the center of a pocket, or find the center of a boss, and so etc. etc. So, for works coordinate system and for automation of that, you can do it, let's say, for setup in your graphical user interface on all of the controllers that we have. So Siemens, Syntek, LNC. However, when it comes down to, let's say, serialized production, where you have every piece of stock is a different size, and you need to find, or you're placing your stock in vices, and you're placing them into your work setup, and you need to probe for the size of the stock to make sure that it's not oversized, or I don't know, to find the Z height each time. That is something that you're going to have to code in. There are options. For example, there is, I think, a range of post processors for Fusion 360 that have the macros already written in, so it makes it a lot easier for yourself. However, the macros that are supplied with the Pioneer may not be incorporated in there. So what I would recommend in terms of controller would not be specifically based on the probing. What I would recommend on the controller is, what do you need the controller to do? Do you need it to be fully functioning? All of them are fully functioning. Do you need the controller to allow you to do advanced, or use advanced fast 4-axis machining? Then you need a controller that will do inverse time, which is where you come into the Syntek or the Siemens. For all intents and purposes, if you're coming into the SYIL range from the beginning, then if you've got the budget, if you have the budget and you've got the time to wait for it, then potentially go with the Siemens, because that one will have the best documentation, it will have the best warranty. It's literally, let's say, the top shelf. But there's a price to that, both in terms of lead times and in terms of monetary value. You can do everything else with relative ease with both the LNC and the Syntek controllers, or the 22MAs. Personal favorite out of the two, I would say the LNC right now, because although it's a sort of underdog, it's very good value for money. And we have people that have been using the LNC for a very long time, and we understand it. The Syntek has got a fantastically large screen. It's industrial. We were talking with Syntek USA. They're getting into it. So for that one, I'm just waiting for the right opportunity to invest and get one for myself. But for the time being, I think demo machine I'm getting is the LNC, purely because I don't want to have something that costs a little bit more just sat there on the shelf for demo purposes. At some point, I think I'll get the Syntek, because I like the large screens, and also I want to look at incorporating more of the robotic side in it. Coming back to your point, sorry, Freddie, I went off on a tangent there, but basically the the difference between a hobby control and an industrial CNC control is that you do not get the myriads of plugins that have been developed by the community to do things like the probing, or the myriads of skins that you can get for Mach 3 or Linux CNC. And this is something that has pissed people off before, because they're saying, well, actually, I've paid so much more money to get an industrial controller and it doesn't do all this, that, and the other. But on the factory floor, when you're producing, 99% of the time, you do not need all those extra functions unless investment has been made of many thousands of dollars to incorporate that into the production process. So it's a scale thing. What you will learn with all of the controllers is how to set up your works offsets correctly, and how to be more, let's say, meticulous with your code. The big benefit of using an industrial controller or something that's dedicated is the safety aspects of it. So when you're DIYing stuff, you cut corners. With the industrial stuff, everything is properly done. So you've got door interlocks, you've got a feed rate override that actually works, you've got a feed hold that stops the machine dead in its tracks, and there's no buffering. You can start your machine from other lines down the code. So that kind of stuff and the reliability of an industrial controller are worth its weight in worth its prices. I hope I've answered your question on that one. It's my pleasure. Thank you. So I'll keep the stream going for another 5 minutes. It will come up to 10 o'clock in the UK, and although it's been a pleasure, I think we will need to end this conversation at some point. I do appreciate all of you taking the time to join this live view. Please, please, please subscribe. I'm not alone in the marketing department anymore. We're hired a person to assist me on that, and Kerry has been very much looking forward to promoting a lot more of the live streams, and also the further content that we'll be doing on YouTube. Remember, MVO Engineering doesn't just do SYIL, we do a lot of other products as well. We've got our own brand of small milling machines, our own brand of small lathes. I like to design new products, so if you've got a project that you would like to develop, or you needed manufacturing advice, or you wanted to talk about 3D printing, or you wanted to talk about how we could partner up to produce a new product for yourselves, or even customize something that you've got, give me a shout. I'm always itching to have a technical project and not just do the sales side of things. Okay. Thank you very much all for joining me tonight. Your questions have been relevant, and I do hope that I've been able to answer the ones that have come through the chat. I will make sure that we update the points to make sure that we've got the rated and the max power on the various specifications. I forgot to mention that there's a new website, a new SYIL website that will be released in various markets over the next few months, next few weeks even. The US, I think, is already live. The global site is already live, and we're waiting for the US, Australia, and I think maybe the Dutch one for the Benelux. Going forward, I hope to be able to serve the European market significantly more, so that you're not waiting for emails or responses or warranty out of China. But that will also depend on the, let's say, the global economy and how many of you actually decide to buy machines from myself. If you're in Europe, by all means get in touch. If you're in the States, you've got your suppliers there. Uh, let's keep this conversation going. And with that, I wish you all a lovely rest of the day or a lovely evening. And I hope to hear from more of you in the future, either on the website, Facebook, or directly with myself. Have a lovely time. Bye bye.